We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, we're going to ask our clerk to read the roll.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
Thank you. For those who voluntarily wish to do so, please stand. Our minister is not online with us. I'm going to ask if Councilman Freeman will please lead us in prayer. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilwoman Amobian will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, we'll pray again. God, thank you again that we're reminded that your mercies are new every day and that you are long-suffering toward us. We're reminded that as for humankind, our days are as grass, we flourish, the wind passes over it, and our time is over. And so this short time that we have on earth, maybe 70 perhaps, we ask that you would make us effective for your purposes. And we pray, God, that we would always be mindful that your kingdom should always be priority in our hearts and minds. Thank you for each and every councilman, each and every councilwoman, for administration, for the citizens that we serve. And we thank you again for your kindness and gratitude from our heart to you, as always. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes passed 12-0 with one abstention.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
Okay. We have no public hearing scheduled for this evening, so we'll move right into old business. Rules. Councilman Freeman.
Yes, the committee met this afternoon, and we did come up with an adverse report. I'm not sure quite how to go about this. Since then, I know some of us had concern about who Mr. or Mrs. Lawton was. There has been there's been some new information that we got today. So the committee's report's adverse, but I was hoping we could entertain to go into committee as a whole and perhaps entertain time and then maybe get information out to everybody here this week.
Thank you so much, Councilman Freeman. So at this time, can we please have a motion to go into committee as a whole?
Motion to go into committee as a whole.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion to go into committee of the whole passes 13-0.
Okay, and so at this time, we're going to appoint Councilman Freeman as the chair of the committee.
Center, and it was brought up today. Lawton Community Center actually is named after Lawton Street, but it does have someone's name on it, and seems like we really couldn't find out who Mr. Lawton was, but we do have some information from the Historical Society about our mysterious Mr. Lawton. I was hoping that we could share that information with everyone this week and then come back and revisit this, and hopefully perhaps even go council as a whole. I've had bad experience once before, actually in the church, had a bad experience with renaming something that had already been named after someone else. And we know we rename all the time. I mean, 10 or 15 years ago, we renamed Mount McKinley. So it's done. We just want to make sure that we're not discrediting anybody's name from the past. We'll get information out to everyone this week if indeed we can agree on time, and then revisit this next week.
I'd like to make a motion for time on the item in reference to the renaming of the Lawton Street Community Center.
Okay. And I'm just going to help Councilman Freeman so that he can see that he does have some hands. I did see Councilman Malik's hand.
Okay, I apologize. Councilman Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, would it be possible to briefly summarize what that information about Mr. Lawton is?
You know what? I think I can. I'm going to defer to Mr. Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. I told you I was going to send that earlier. You do have it now. Oh, thank you. I see you, Ms. Howland, so I'll take off my mask. Little historical context. First, Lawton Street was named Lawton Street Community Center because just de facto, when Mount Olive Baptist Church no longer was able to maintain it, under then Councilman Mike Williams, the city took over what was at one time the Lawton Street YMCA. I don't even know if it was named Lawton Street YMCA, but it was the YMCA, and it was named Lawton Street Community Center. But to give you an idea, I contacted the Historical Society just to get some information, because we should find out why things are named with their name. Lawton Street, not the center, because the center was named long afterwards. But Lawton Street was named after Mr. Lawton, who was married to Mary Cox, who died in 1891. Mr. Lawton was at that time the 5th Ward City Council. Okay? So there's another piece here. I do believe
Councilman Neal, can you speak just a little bit closer
yes,
to the
ma'am.
microphone?
Thank you. I
so much.
apologize for that. I was trying to see if there was something else of any significance. Oh, in 1880, he became the superintendent and engineer of Akron Waterworks Company. Mr. Lutter would like that. A responsible position in which he continued until his present time, when this article was written. It says, Mr. Lawton was a very capable man in his line of work. Since locating in Akron, he sought to fulfill the duties of a good citizen, and he worked on the improvement of public nature, aiming to advance general welfare. For 4 years, he was a member of, then again it says, Akron City Council's 5th Ward. I know my colleague, Ms. Mosley, would like that. So that just lets you know how the city grew. The street in which he was named after him were not changing. The building was just by default named Lawton Street because that was a street that it sat on. I don't need to reiterate everything that was said about the contributions that Judge James R. Williams made to our community. And the resolution on the floor, that was on the floor, was that we honor his work and his service by naming the building that was named after a street, after Judge James R. Williams. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I got portions of it. I think I heard councilman, and then I heard something with waterworks. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Councilman Neal just made his, gave us a little snippet in terms of the history. So we're going to turn it back over to you now as the chair. And,
Okay, and I would just like to see, is there a possibility we could just get a brief synopsis of that sent out to us this week, if that's possible? I mean, it's all new information for me, but if we could get that, that would be helpful. And I understand what Mr. Neal said. The building was not named after him, but there is a name attached, so we are changing the name on a building of somebody who had history in Akron. So if we could get that information this week, that's all I would ask. Perhaps we could act next week.
okay.
Thank you. That's what I have.
And Mr. Chair, you do have Councilman Fusco who has a comment.
Yeah, I'd like to refer the item for discussion for next week. It's a motion to refer.
Okay, there's a motion to refer. We need a second.
Second.
Okay, motion to refer and a second.
There's a second here in chambers, Mr. Chair. Would you like me to do a roll call? Baylor?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
The motion to refer passes 13-0.
Okay. Thank you so much. So at this time, we're just going to ask for a motion to come out of committee as a whole.
Motion to come out as committee as a whole.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
The motion passes 13-0.
So at this time, we're going to continue with our old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Time on the agenda.
Time will be granted. Public service, Councilwoman Mosley.
Is this for old business or new?
We're in old business.
Okay, file please.
Okay. Items will be filed. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1 is offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing an agreement between the Fraternal Order of Police, Akron Lodge Number 7 Bargaining Unit, and the City of Akron regarding employee wage increases through calendar year 2024 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman.
Yes, the committee's requested time, and we'll be receiving some more information this week regarding 2 separate items, and so we're asking for time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Time will be granted.
Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance amending Title 15 Land Usage, Chapter 153 Zoning Code to reflect the enactment of the Title 15, Chapter 155 Sign Code and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
For and advertise for public hearing.
This item will be referred.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco and Mosley, ordinance authorizing the Deputy Mayor for Integrated Development to contract with Kaboom Incorporated, the Akron Parks Collaborative, and United Healthcare Services for the reconstruction of a playground located at Joy Park, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 4, offered by Kamer, ordinance ratifying the Director of Public Services entrance into contracts with multiple vendors for emergency snow and ice control operations during the 2 back-to-back major winter storm events in early 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. Obviously, we all know we had two winter storms this year, and this is basically to pay the vendors that came and helped us out with snow and ice control operations, including loading, transporting, and removal of snow, as well as plowing and salting our roads during these storms. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 5, offered by Kamer, resolution declaring it necessary to improve Beardsley Street between the termini of Firestone Boulevard and Archwood Avenue by resurfacing, constructing, and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalks, and driveway approaches, and installing roof drain pipes and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Freeman, ordinance ratifying the Director of Public Services hiring of a contractor for the emergency removal of lead water services and replacement with safe piping throughout the city prior to street resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Committee's requested this item be placed on the consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda. That does conclude our new legislation for this evening. We'll now move to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. Just going to ask when you hear your name to please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting and your remarks should be kept germane to council business. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers. Do we have any participants online with us?
Yes, we have one that has joined online, Admika Minter.
Okay, so maybe what we'll do is we'll start with those in the chamber, give a few more minutes for those to join online. So just going to ask all those that are in chambers with us who are wishing to speak at our public comment period, if you'll please stand so that you can be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John Beatty?
My name is John Beatty, John Beaty, at 2047 Wyndham Road, Ward 8. And Madam President and members of the City Council, I wanted to share with you thoughts about how we look at our city. Do we look at our city from the top down or from the bottom up? I want to mention to you that we've just had Easter, and we know that in that situation, for Christians, Jesus was risen from the dead and ascended on high eventually. And for us Christians, we think he's going to come back in a fantastic bringing heaven upon earth. But where is Jesus now? And I want to share with you a passage of Scripture from Luke. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to preach good news. Who? To the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom. Who? For the prisoners. And recovery of sight to the blind. to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Now, if you're not familiar with that passage from our Jewish scriptures, the year of the Lord's favor was the year of the 50th year, when everybody who owed money was forgiven the loans. And anyone who had their property seized because of their debts, the property was returned to them. To me, that means that we look on our city from the bottom up, not from the top down. When you raise those who are oppressed, who are poor, who are prisoners, you raise all boats. You raise the welfare of the whole city. If you look from the top down, then you have a problem. Increasing wealth at the top and increasing deprivation and more vulnerability at the bottom. I suggest that we who are Muslim or Christian or Jewish look from the bottom up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beatty, for sharing. John Sharp.
John Wesley Sharp, attorney and counselor at law. My address is important. 730 Callis Drive, Suite 1201, Akron, Ohio, 44311. That address is important because we want you to send anonymous letters to that address and tell us what we need to know. We are 20 community organizers strong. We are the Coalition for a Safe Community. We invite the victims of discrimination to our meetings, and we confront the victims, the perpetrators, aggressively. Today we have Minister Steve Muhammad here, the author of a book called Losing a Chosen Generation. We have Emmanuel Bay, John Beatty, Lonnie Kendricks, Andre Smith, Otelia Webb, Mr. and Mrs. Littlejohn, and Harrington Hargrove. We received an anonymous letter stating that council is violating the city charter. No details. In addition, as you learned in high school, there are 4 branches of government. Let's see now. The executive, the judicial, and legislative, yes. That means that there should be, these are independent. You are independent. There should be no communication between city council, the mayor, and his administration. You're an independent body. Those of you who are huddled up with the mayor are violating a basic tenet of the United States Constitution. You are an independent body and need not accept advice from the law department. Akron does not want a black bar in Akron. The mayor and his police department are trying to revoke the liquor license of the Mature Lounge and Eatery. We demand that the appeal be dismissed and the complaint withdrawn. We may have to picket City Hall and march from the lounge to City Hall. Oh Lord, help me now. This is not personal. Black economic development. This is not personal. This is a consequence, and this is the chickens doing what they do. This is not personal. Jeff Fusco, you are the chairman of the Economic Development Committee. Where is black economic development? When I talked to you, you said you do not like to have anyone appear before your committee. We don't see any black economic development.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes are up.
My time is up?
Yep, but we'll be around. We can talk later. Okay? Demetrius Smith?
Who is calling the shots? Who has the power to disrupt a business, cause people to lose jobs, but can't mandate the police to be a presence where a large gathering would be? Helping prevent anything from happening, keeping the peace. Who can sleep at night knowing you have officers disregarding calls to work the nightclubs, but take jobs they believe would be an easy night? What kind of leadership is going on here? Once again, who is in charge? You have multiple bars calling for presence. One of the places is a chill bar, mostly sitting and eating in and out type stuff. And the other club, is an urban nightclub hosting hundreds of people with more of a party atmosphere. You send them to where they are less likely to be needed. You guys, at this point in time, are a joke, not leaders or elders. You're a body of opportunists, dictators, and horrible cover-up artists who do not have the whole public interest at heart, only their own and their public. Last week, the question was posed to me by a council member: have we took steps to try to get other protection besides the APD? The answer is no. And as I thought about it, why should we? All this sounds like extra hoops to jump through. If other businesses in the same radius can get responses, why can't we? Is it because APD isn't qualified to handle minority crowds? Is it because y'all would rather the urban youth continue making stupid, rash decisions and continue eliminating itself to have a reason to try to make us move or shut down? It's one of the three, or maybe all. As an urban establishment, who do you think we are? Circus animals? I can see that you guys are insinuating that our patrons are, which is why I suspect that they can get the same protection as the Barley House on St. Patrick's Day, the Eurogyro every weekend, or the Rubber Ducks games. The picture is getting clearer. Can y'all see it? If not, let me tell you how it seems to me and my tens of thousands of followers at home. It seems that certain establishments are a priority and the urban businesses are not even a thought. Also, I hear you guys should change business models. We've been paying our rent and bills just fine. This is an assault on the urban community. Hip-hop, believe it or not, is the #1 genre in the world since 2018, and that's what I grew up listening to. Instead of doing your job and helping keep the peace, you stand back, wait for something to happen, and rush in like y'all coming to save the day. So if you as the police department and the downtown partnership have openly showed that whatever happens, happens, why must we go above and beyond to protect parking lots we do not own or see revenue from? I got charged numerous times before, and we had $30,000 artists in the building.
Mr. Smith, your 3 minutes are up.
I bet, and I'll be back next week.
Thank you. Stephen Muhammad.
All right, Stephen Muhammad, local minister for the Nation of Islam, also member of the Coalition for a Safe Community. Lived in Akron my whole life. For the short time that we were away, we lived in North Carolina and came back home. I haven't been to city council for a minute, and I wasn't going to come back down here. My heart was broken. I was in my feelings, as we say, after the last local elections. In my opinion, mischief was made, and people's lives were ill-affected. Reverend Beatty must have been feeling my energy tonight because he quoted from the New Testament. And I also would like to cite something from the book of Matthew. We open these meetings with prayer, but then when I listen, I don't hear too much God in the discourse. So one day when the master was talking to his disciples, And they asked him, Master, when were you sick and we didn't minister unto you? When were you naked and we didn't offer you clothes? When were you hungry and we didn't feed you? When were you in prison and we didn't come and minister unto you? And he responded with what would become the standard conduct for those in service, whether it be political or spiritual. And he said, as you have not done this to the least of these, my brethren, you have not done it to me. Here is the master equating himself with the littlest man that you can think of. We're just finishing the holy month of Ramadan. I know Shamus is online. We offer him Eid Mubarak. And for those of you who may know what those terms mean, blessed celebration. After we do 30 days of fasting from water and food during daylight hours, we break the fast with a big celebration. But during Ramadan and depriving ourselves, we learn something about what the little man in the dust may be experiencing. And if you drive around Akron, you can't miss it. The city is plagued with the poor and the needy. Surah 107 in the Quran, Acts of Kindness, goes like this. Hast thou seen him who belies religion? That is he who is rough to the orphan and urges not the feeding of the needy. So woe unto them, the praying ones, who offer a mindless prayer and engage not in acts of kindness. Last point. Russ Neal, in my opinion, in my personal experience, is a good man. Good meaning genuine and sincere. And I hope that I hope that we all will consider that. I know my time is up. As we move forward and refrain from shenanigans
Thank you,
and
Mr.
misconduct.
Mohammed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Harrington Hargrove.
Good evening, Council. My name is Harrington Hargrove. I live at 1008 Laurel Avenue, Akron, 44307, Ward 3. And I'm just going to I have a little thing here about the Elevate Akron report. And it said it called for a regional inclusion strategy program, a regional inclusion. And with the Elevate Akron study, this council needs to address that now. Formulate a program so that we can be uplifted in the black communities. Everyone knows the plight that we've had in this city is well documented. From the Elevate Akron study to the study about the Interbelt. So this council should include us, make a plan today in order to elevate the black communities. And these ARPA dollars, when will we sit at the table to get these ARPA dollars for our community, for business development? Everything is stated about these ARPA dollars said that we will be a part and included in this for economic opportunity, for businesses, for community development in Ward 3. The entire city, but I'm speaking about my ward, Ward 3. It has definitely been redlined. All the reports said the Interbelt is in the heart of Ward 3. In the heart. Yet we receive nothing. We need medicine. And the medicine that we need is opportunity. So council, as I always do, I come down here asking. I don't come down here name calling. I ask for the truth and I ask for the development of my community. That shouldn't be difficult for this council to do because you have funding. You have all the funding in the world to uplift our community with a 5-year plan. 5 years, we wouldn't have to come to this podium asking. We could be producers in this city. So I'm going to end there, but council, as I said last week, justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hargrove. Ronald Smith.
Good evening, members of council, Madam President. I want to read this letter into the record. Madam President, Margaret Somerville, and council members, I want to thank you in advance for taking time to read this letter and reflecting upon this letter as well. Let me draw your attention to a successful collaborative effort between the City of Akron, Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority, and the Akron Board of Education. Those entities came together on September 26, 2012, upon receiving a $34 million grant from the Department of HUD to build the Summit Lake Family Opportunity Center. As a result of that collaboration, 4 Head Start classrooms, 2 Akron Public School kindergarten classrooms, 2 computer labs, and 2 adult learning classrooms were housed therein. So in light of the above, any child born 7 years prior to September 26, 2012 will be graduating this year or graduating in the 2022-2023 school year. We have a serious problem as it relates to our children, particularly black children graduating from high school with the necessary skill set to pursue a higher academic educational career path, a technical and or vocational career path after graduating, because they lack the basic skill set to pursue the above mentioned. The Ohio State report card for the academic year 2021 revealed that at least 4 Akron public schools, high schools, Akron, East CLC, Bookville CLC, Kimball Garfield CLC, and there was a correction I want to make, Firestone CLC, while graduating students anywhere from 85% to 95%, only 20% to less than 50% of the students are prepared to pursue an academic career path and or technical or vocational career path. Now with that being said, I'm asking you, City of Akron leaders and elected officials in this community to once again collaborate with the Akron Board of Education and partner up to help these young people to become law-abiding, productive members in this community. Finally, I will quote our previous mayor, Don Pasquale, and I quote, "The only way to properly address the needs of our community is through collaboration. No one organization on their own has the resources to fulfill all the needs of our community. Therefore, members of City Council, it is incumbent upon you to step up and help lead this collaborative effort to help these children acquire the necessary skills to become future leaders of tomorrow that we envision them becoming." Wishing you all the best. Again, Ronald Smith, 1279 Herman Street, Akron, Ohio, Ward 3. In a couple of seconds I got left. In 1950, here there was several reports. The Kerner, Elevate Akron, the gist of those reports were all inclusion. You have to include blacks into this picture now if we want a level playing field. Thank you, because I know my time is up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. We do have Amika Minter, who is online with us. And Amika, I'm just going to ask if you could please turn on your camera and unmute yourself, and we'll have you be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do.
Okay, Amika, you can proceed with your comments.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amika Minter. I come here to say thank you for coming to the Eviction Prevention Summit and the little you have done so far. Now that no longer no one can say they don't know about the inhumane way residents are living and being treated, not just in the Erickson, but the Wilkins homes, but the city statewide, the citywide. I hope you put more concern, attention, and funding towards housing in our community. Because the longer we put our housing issues to the side, the worse they become. Born and raised in this city, and never until the last 10 years have I ever felt forgotten about, and that the city would feel like a third world country. Are we that money hungry that we don't protect and provide for our people. It's time to come together and make solutions and decisions with the community involved. Because when we make those decisions about these communities that we are not involved with, it affects them in a very inhumane and horrible way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amika. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We'll now move into our committee assignments. Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian. Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
145.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
245.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Rules Committee, Councilman Freeman.
2 p.m.
Okay. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Do want to just remind everyone that council is going to have a virtual town hall meeting May 24th at 6 o'clock. The topic of conversation is let's talk about affordable housing issues. And again, just want to take the opportunity to thank Admika Mentor and all of those who have come before council asking council to look into this issue. So we want you to know that we have heard you loud and clear, and we look forward to our first town hall and to begin the work around housing. If there's nothing else coming before council, I do see a couple hands online. Councilman Malik.
Thank you, Madam President, and I definitely second your points about housing. I want to thank Legal Aid and Fair Housing and the City of Akron and all the other partners who put together the Eviction Prevention Summit on Thursday. I thought it was an amazing day full of conversation. You know, we had folks from city administration, from the municipal court, from council, from all across the community, tenants, housing providers, all having difficult conversations about housing. I know that all of the panels and the keynotes were recorded, so I hope we can share that for anyone who wasn't able to attend. And we can move forward with the work of addressing these issues with the urgency that Ms. Minter has put upon us. I also just wanted to briefly say, with respect, that the adverse report this afternoon on the piece regarding Judge Williams was really unfortunate, and I found it shameful. I think that when we look at the legacy of Judge Williams' service, it's easy to, we should be falling over ourselves to find a way to honor him. And that has not been the energy with which we have approached this issue. And it's not a secret that there are people who disagree with each other and who personally don't like each other on council. But that should not get in the way of honoring someone, particularly someone of Judge Williams' stature. And there are folks all across the city who deserve honor. All across the city, I know that we all gathered for our colleague on Saturday. I know that there's a tree planted in honor of Ms. Holland's father. I know that I hold so many things close to my heart about my mom. I know that many of us have lost relatives recently. And I hope that we can take a second and uncover some of this history around Mr. Lawton and his family, and maybe we can make sure that there's a plaque on Lawton Street that uncovers that so that folks are aware of that going forward. But really, I hope we don't miss this opportunity to honor Judge Williams in a way that is so clearly deserved.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you. Two things.
I first want to piggyback off of what my colleague, Councilman Malik, just stated. This afternoon was very hard, and it became to the point where I had to remove myself from the room to listen to the vitriol for such a great man who's done so much for this city, a black man. We very seldom honor those of his stature. Something that people who look like me can look up to and say, that building's named after Judge James R. Williams. And just to listen to, it was hurtful and it was hard. And it hurts because last week I stated on the record, I hope the separation of these two great men would not turn into us voting down one of them. And that's what happened today. It was so disrespectful to him, so disrespectful to his legacy, so disrespectful to his family. And nobody better than I except for those who supported him. And that hurts. We gotta be better than this. We have to be better than this. We have kids looking up to us. We have residents looking up to us. And to look for a reason to say a street, a building, it might be named after somebody. When James Ingram passed away, I came in with the resolution to rename Fuller Street. No one ever looked to see if Fuller Street was named after anyone. And people may try to say it was ceremonial, but it wasn't, because people's mail in that neighborhood is right by my house. Their mail says James Ingram Way. It doesn't say Fuller Street. No one looked to see if that was named after anyone, because we were honoring his legacy. And it's unfortunate. We've got to do better than this. The personal has to stop. There was a concerted effort to kill this, and no one can tell me differently. And it hurts that this is what we are, and this is what the people see us as. We are here representing 100,000 people here in the city of Akron. And this hurts that they see us acting like this and doing this against a man who has done so much, the first of so many. And now that Russ has uncovered, Councilman Neal has uncovered that Mr. Logan actually was a council person in Ward 5. How do we not know that? How do we not know that? This is city council. So now find something in Ward 5 to name after him then. This is just, we've got to do better. We have to do better. And lastly, I just want to say, for my own peace of mind, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Check on somebody. Not just because it's May. There's people out there hurting. And we need to check on them, especially our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Holland?
Thank you so much, Madam President. I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, and I want to particularly thank Councilman Malik for mentioning that cherry tree that's blooming right now that honors the memory of my father. I really want to drive home what I deeply believe about this whole topic, everybody. And that is something that I said earlier today, which is that honor and tribute, like compassion, they're not pie. There's not a limited quantity. There aren't just so many pieces to go around. We are a big, small town with a huge heart. And I believe this has been a real object lesson, a real invitation to us, and it's not over yet, a real opportunity to take a pause and to recognize that there have been giants living amongst us. And I said earlier today in committee that Judge Williams and my father were actually law school mates. What seems like 100 years ago, when some of us on council weren't even born yet. Those were different times when a man like my father, who grew up in a house that in the beginning of his life had no indoor plumbing, were about as likely to get to law school as a black man or woman. These were people who, against all odds, got to law school and did amazing things. Judge Williams was the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Ohio, which is the kind of honor that so very few people hold. And this happened in the 1970s, less than 2 decades after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This was huge. He went on and achieved honor after honor and recognition after recognition for being a real pioneer and an incredible hard worker. Fast forward many, many years later, I'm a baby lawyer, fresh back here from Washington and Columbus, a former assistant attorney general myself, and eager to represent individuals in the struggle for equality. I brought discrimination cases to Akron, Ohio. There were only a few of us doing it. And Judge Williams gave my cases a chance, but they weren't my cases. They were cases on behalf of individuals who were being treated differently for no better reason than who they were on the day they were born. He was a giant, and I repeat, there is more than enough honor and tribute to go around. It's not pie. I hope, and I will pray, that we can see our way to do the right thing on this and every other opportunity like it, because there are giants amongst us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Freeman?
Well, there we go. Hey, yeah, thanks for everybody's comments. And I just want to say that, you know, we know who Mr. Lawton was now. And one of these days, I guess when we look at time and how it erodes memory, one of these days they'll say of each and every one of us, you know, who was this one, who was that one, who was Judge Williams. It just, I mean, the bigger purpose for me is that we didn't shove one individual aside like they didn't matter. So probably causes me to pay more attention to the names of streets in my community. And, you know, why is that street named Westmoreland, or why is that street named Polk or Iona? So I guess no disrespect meant to Jim Williams whatsoever, but quite honestly, I did. I wanted to know whose name am I replacing here. So if there was a fence done, please offer forgiveness. But, you know, posterity, each and every one of us, we lay down marks. Some of them are deeper than others. Each and every one of us will one day be forgotten, but I think we all have hopes that a piece of us will live for decades to come. So, you know, thank you, Mr. Lawton. Thank you, Judge Williams, and look forward to talking about this next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Baylor?
I just want to know, am I missing something, or is Judge Williams' name on Williams Towers? Is that his name on Williams Towers? Somebody can verify that for me? Is that Judge Williams' name?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All this negativity swirling around, I believe he deserves some more honor too, but he was able to do what many people will never be able to do that are being honored. He was able to see his flowers while he was living. He could see that tower named after him while he was here for those many years and appreciate how the people had honored him through that. We got to start looking at positivity sometime. Everything is just not negative. He has been honored, but yes, he can deserve some more honor. And frankly, from where I stand, I don't think Lawton does him justice as his name being on there. He was a distinguished gentleman of high honor. And to me, that just doesn't cut it in my estimation of it. I think he deserves even more honor than that. But that's just how I feel about it. But I don't want to keep hearing all of this like he didn't have any honor, because he was able to see it. And many people will not be able to do that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, in regards to Williams Towers, that wasn't the city. That was his fraternity that did that. You know, let's not play games down here. I'm sincerely concerned with this council's ability to address the real issues. It was alluded to about the politics. And there's a time for politics when people are running for office. But the problem is that it encroaches the political process and pollutes our ability to serve our citizens. This afternoon, this evening, and last evening at our last council meeting, the light was shown on the lack of integrity, honesty, and respectfulness that this council has. Let's not, I mean, we know why what was done was done. If there were any questions, there was plenty of time between last week and this week to ask those questions. We have people come down here all the time asking about, you know, us addressing things equity. I heard my colleague across the horseshoe use the word equity. We use that word all the time, but we don't know what it means. We don't display it in our actions and how we address policy down here. And our constituents need to hold us accountable. If we can put the police department on display as we reimagine public safety and have those for our citizens to see, as a council, we need to be on display about how we address policy down here. Because the politics has corrupted this horseshoe. And if you question, if you think I'm wrong, I've got several meetings that we can pull up, and I think we should pull them up and look at them with our constituents about how just politics gets in the way of us addressing the needs of our constituents. So I agree with my colleagues. Today was, it didn't cast aspersion on Judge Williams. It just reflected the toxic environment within this horseshoe. Especially for those who are supposed to be in leadership, to lead that charade is shameful.
Is there anything else coming before council? Do you have a comment, Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yes. Many of us around this horseshoe, whenever we bring in legislation, we do the work. We put the time in. We ask the questions. We have conversations with the administration. The person that names buildings in our city is a service director. We put the time in. We ask the questions before the legislation comes in. Oftentimes, we reach out to our colleagues to ask if there's any other thoughts. When this came in, there was the primary sponsor did not show up to the meeting. And then that night, we were told to pass it or else, or we're playing politics. Today, there was a motion to pass it. Again, a sense of, I get that, but there is more questions. There's questions that weren't answered today. Now there's information that comes to light. Many of us, and I appreciate the comments, and I certainly am one, like I said earlier today, that totally respect, and all of us in the community respect and admire the work of James R. Williams. But one has to put in the time. When you bring in legislation, you just don't bring it in hoping to find out how people vote. If you want it passed, what you're going to do is you're going to bring it in and you're going to get it passed, okay? And to talk about politics being played and to put words into our mouths, I'm not going to stand for it. There was more information today, and hopefully this week and then next Monday there's going to be more information we'll be able that we can consider. But and oftentimes this is pretty substantial. It's not every day that we name a building in this town. Look at Canal Park. That would have been easy for the city to go out and say, let's who's the highest bidder, and we can collect income on that. This isn't done just to do it. We have to take our time and do it right whenever we're going to do it, because we don't do it that often. It's important to do it right and to do the work and put the time in. It's important to do that.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Madam President. You know, I want to acknowledge the fact that this particular issue has been brought before council before. I mean, we've talked about this before. This is nothing new. And putting in the work, I'm not really sure exactly what that means to everybody. Every issue doesn't deserve to be treated the same way. It doesn't need to be done in the same way. Obviously, Councilwoman Mosley Samples just gave an example that when we renamed the street after Ingram, we didn't raise questions about who that street was named for before. I think the work was done when you looked at the legislation and you could see all of the contributions of the great man of Judge Williams, was the work that he did for this community, the work that he has done for this country, because the housing program that he developed when he was national president of the Athletes is not just for Akron. It's in different parts of this state and different states in this country. So, you know, the work that, whatever work it is that you are referring to, it has been done. You know, to separate it last week, and I didn't want to look at this racially. That's why I didn't hold I said, perhaps I didn't want to pass one person's issue and then deny the other same night, because it would look so obvious that it was racial discrimination of some kind. But I don't even want to go there. I just want to recognize a man who did good for this community, and the councilman of the ward is bringing the recommendation forth. We have had other council persons to bring recommendations, and we've not asked those kinds of questions. So I am ready for us to move on, make a decision if we're going to do it or not. I certainly think Judge Williams deserves that and more. And you have to remember, you don't have a lot of black icons around on buildings or being talked about in this city and other cities. Our children need to know the folks that they're looking up to, that they can someday be like that. And that's not something that we find every day walking around our communities, folks, you know. And I think we need to see more of that. I'm sure it'd be nice for children in Schumacher and other places to say, well, who is that person? And then they can read the history or hear about him, who represented Ward 4 and became the only black judge for the county. You know, there's so many things he did. So I don't want to belabor this, Madam President, and I will move for adjournment if you're ready for us to do that. But I just want us to acknowledge a great man who is doing great things for this community, and we'll just move on, because whatever it costs to put his name on the building and to provide the history that goes along with that, I don't think it would cost as much as we think it would cost. And if it did, there are some of us that are willing to pay for it. If the city is saying they're broke, and I know we're not. You know, we got a lot of ARPA money and it's moving around all over the place. So we got the money to do it, and it's not going to cost an arm and a leg. And this is a recommendation from the council person, and we've had those before. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Amobian. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, this started 8 months ago. I asked the mayor.
Councilman Neal, I'm going to ask you to direct your comments to the chair.
I asked the mayor for what is our protocol. I was on record for speaking about wanting to name the building after Judge Williams back in October, whatnot, because I spoke to Madam President and the mayor at that time about the lack of respect for the process of naming Cadillac Boulevard after James Ingram. No legislation came in before council, no discussion. To let you know the work that was done, I'm the Ward 4 council person. I went to the constituents of Ward 4 and asked them. I spoke to the family and I went to the mayor. 8 months working up to this. If you had questions, if anyone's had questions, the protocol is to go to the sponsors and ask them what those questions are. And why was I not here last Monday? I explained. We were blessed. I was there with the president, the mayor. Bookville High School the Browns were dedicating a turf field for them at that time. When was the decision made to take time on the legislation? Was it during committee? When was that decision made? I didn't get a call any time before then. So the work was done. The residents of the ward had spoken. And as I stated, this started 8 months ago. Because if you need to see the text, I got the text where I text the mayor and asked him about it. So, you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We got problems in this council. We throw out politics to hide behind dishonesty and a lot of isms. And you can choose which ones you want them to be. But it is real. And like I said, if we're going to deal with really being able to address the inequitable impacts of things in this community, it's like I stated in our retreat. And I know people don't like hearing this, but the Brookings Institute said that this city is dying because it's not inclusive. And the part about being, including equity, yes, it focuses on race, but it's broader than that. And the politics down here reflects that this council right now does not have the integrity, as a collective body, does not have the integrity to address the real issues that are facing this city. And the way some handle this resolution is just a small indication of that.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Councilwoman Connor?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say, as a newcomer to council, and fairly new, along with some of my colleagues, I did not hear about this 8 months ago. I heard about it just a few weeks ago. I was asked to make a decision. I immediately looked up Lawton Street in relation to Williams Tower, less than 3 miles apart. That's a pretty close call from a neighborhood point of view to honor men. I would love to see something maybe more citywide, maybe something downtown, where the whole city could know Judge Williams better, not just Ward 4. So to me, that was my initial concern. As we've discussed it, and the votes were yes and no, I have never once had one person around here ask me why I voted no. And that was 3 weeks ago. And that was up till today. So when you talk about doing homework, part of homework is being prepared. You know, if people are saying no, go ask them why. It's not my responsibility to call you and say, I don't like this for this and this reason. You're bringing it here to us. And no one reached out, no one called. In 3 meetings so far, no one once has asked me why I voted no. Those things should be concerning. And it's not a black and white issue. It's that, talk to people. Open those lines of communication. That's what we're supposed to be here for. I think Judge Williams is an excellent example. I would love to see something named for him. But I think 2 buildings within 3 miles when Ward 4 is huge, let's spread that knowledge around so that not just one side of the neighborhood knows who he is and not the other. And that's all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Malik?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Mobin, did I see your hand?
Just to move for adjournment.
Okay, before we do that, I do just want to make one statement because a lot has been said on tonight. But I do want to say that something did happen today. There was an opportunity here. In committee, we had an adverse report. This evening, we went into committee as a whole to take time. So something did happen. But again, it's not enough to just listen to your constituents in the community, right? Because they've elected us to do far more than that, than just listen, but to come down here, right, and advocate for them. And a part of advocating and passing policy on this floor is that you need 7 votes. We can't do it by ourselves. And so it's important that we talk to one another, we communicate with one another, and we educate one another. And so when we bring pieces to the floor and we don't do that, we do the peace a disservice, we do the community a disservice, and no one wins. There was an opportunity on tonight because we took time to have conversation, time to educate one another, and time to do what the community deserves. So there was an opportunity on tonight. I know we have a motion for adjournment. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.